Hey guys, this is Davidson. I have a very special guest this week. He's like one of my best friends. Brilliant guy. His name is Jeph Acheampong. And yeah, wait, did I pronounce it right? Acheampong.
It's Acheampong.
Okay, all right. I'll get it right one of these days.
You will.
When we're 50.
Eventually.
But he's extremely brilliant. Really just a great guy all around. You know, we always connect. We're always talking about like the latest. Talking about how Amazon's gonna take over the world and just like all the amazing podcasts that we listen to. So
Yeah.
I think you guys will enjoy. I think Jeff has a lot of knowledge. He has the knowledge of like an 80-year-old. He's like
pressure.
He's like Nelson Mandela mixed it and Jeff Bezos like combined together.
Wow, man, I'm so honored. Well, thanks for having me. It's really good to be here.
Yeah. So just a little bit how we met. So what was your first thoughts of me when you first met me? That's a good way to start off, right?
That is a great way to start. First thoughts when I met you. I thought you were a very vivacious person, very lively.
Okay.
And I mean, because I'm naturally quiet, I didn't know how to more so approach that energy. And it's good energy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
So initially I was just like, trying to figure out like how do I really, befriend this guy, but also like have him, respect the fact that I'm also quiet.
Yeah.
And it was tough to navigate in the beginning, but I'm glad that we became friends because I think like they say, opposites attract, right? So I think whenever we have a conversation, it's always a blossom in one per se. Yeah.
AKA, I'm always talking and he's the one listening.
Right. I plead the fifth.
No, but yeah, it's just funny. Like every day at work, like we'll just talk about like just like the latest, whatever the trend is, like what we think about Google and Facebook, and just so many interesting conversations that we have all the time.
Right.
Why don't you tell me a little bit? So we'll just go from like earlier. So I guess like tell me about your NYU experience. Like how was that?
Yeah. So I mean, before I even talk about my NYU experience, I think it's important to also shed light on like my
before
background,
that.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
So quick background. Born and raised in Ghana. I did some schooling in Ghana. Yes, Ghana. Came here, did my high school here, and did college as well. I went to high school in New York City, in Queens, and after high school, my senior year of high school and even junior year, I didn't really know what kind of college that I would, go to. I just sent applications out. Most of my friends were applying to CUNY schools. CUNY schools is like, the City University of New York. Or senior schools, the State University of New York. Although I didn't really know what my path is or what I wanted to do, I didn't apply to CUNYs because I really believed in myself that I'll be able to get into a really good school. And the idea was that, I'm not saying CUNYs are not good, don't get me wrong, like my friends go to Hunter and you're in some of like the best programs that I know that I definitely don't have the same capacity to, dabble in those kind of programs.
Very modest too, by the way.
Please. But my thought process was that, CUNYs wasn't the school for me, and I deserved to be in like one of the top Ivy Leagues per se. I didn't know why. It's just kind of like the method that has been put in my head from such a young age. So I mean, I think I was an okay student, and I applied for a few senior schools. I applied for Stony Brook, applied for Hartford, and I applied just for like top schools. So I did the Yales, the Cornells, the Harvard. Didn't get in. I was waitlisted for UPenn, but that's another story. And I was in the college office, and this is why I think serendipity plays a role. And a friend of mine and I have been talking a lot about whether luck exists. I believe that we create our own luck. But I mean, again, I guess that's a conversation you can keep going back and forth on. And I was in the college office, and I was just having a conversation with my college counselor, and a guy who went to school with called Steven Escobar came to the office, and he had gone to NYU through early admission. And he said, hey man, like what college are you going to? I was like, oh, I'm still waiting to hear back. He said, apply for NYU. I'm like, what is NYU? So I didn't even know what the school was before that. And in all truth, all I changed in one of my college applications, the Stony Brook one, was the word Stony Brook, and I put NYU on there. No joke. And somehow I got in. And it goes to show that, like chance happens, fate happens. I believe it was written. I just happened to be there at that time. And I think my NYU experience really helped shape me to be who I am today. I always tell friends that my NYU experience helped me think like an employer as opposed to an employee. So even at work, I take ownership of my work as opposed to saying I'm going to ask for, for what to do next. And I think that really positions me to be a different kind of candidate in the workforce. And I mean, to be honest, like it sounds like, I got to figure it out. But I think, having people in my life, like my uncle in Ghana, Akins, my mother, my brothers, people that shaped me, played an integral role in where I am today.
Yeah, that was a lot there, man. I guess one of the things I took from that is like, obviously like take initiative, like be resourceful. I think in the age of Google and the internet, obviously, we just have like the power of just IT in the palm of our hands, right? So I think that's obviously important, just showing initiative and being resourceful. I mean, I definitely think that I do believe in like fate. I do think like I do agree that you create your own luck. Like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs say it's like 50% luck and it's like 50% like hustle, right? Hard work.
100%.
So I feel like you can't have one without the other. Like it's either like you work your ass off, but then when you work your ass off, you create your own luck. Right? Like you have more opportunities.
I agree.
When you hustle.
I agree. The harder you work, the luckier you get. It's that simple. Yeah,
that's why I'm a very lucky guy,
No, he is a very lucky guy. He's killing that work, 100%.
So that's true. Like the one thing I didn't notice about Jeff is like he definitely like hustles. Like he's always like very focused, like very like, all right, man, like from this time to this time, Davidson, don't talk to me. I'm gonna get my work done. But no, but you're very focused. Like when you're in the zone, you're like in the zone. Like which is pretty admirable.
Well, no, thank you, and I'm really flattered. Thanks for that, because the truth is I think it's a blessing and a curse. Where like there are times where I have people, friends, my family looking to get my attention, but I may have put a block to do something, and when I put that block, it has to get done. So like I think of doing things more incremental steps, right? So like if I put a block to do something from 3 to 4, no matter what is happening, I'm gonna get it done between 3 and 4. I think that's how I am extremely productive. I don't think I'm the most productive person, but that's how I get to be productive. There's this concept, I'm sure you've read this book, Cal Newport's book, Deep Work. Where he talks about, deep work versus shallow work per se, right? And deep work is more so saying no to the Facebook, no to the Twitter, you name it, no to the, all the news sense. Putting a block there and just like focusing and getting it done. Shallow work is like, going to Facebook every 5 minutes while you're doing work. And I found that concept to be extremely rewarding and impactful, because then you get so much done. And once I realized that also that when you're doing work and you set goals and you actually get the work done, you accomplish that goal, you feel so much better than saying, I'm just going to do work to do work. Because you leave thinking like, what did I accomplish? And you feel like you just wasted time. It's something that I've been doing a lot, and I'm looking to switch that kind of approach to work.
Okay. I can see that. I think nowadays it's there's like obviously companies like Google and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat are multi-billion-dollar companies that have like the world's best engineers to literally like manipulate us. So.
I talk about it a lot, where it's like importance of sleeping, but also like being so attracted to our devices that we don't get the chance to really be in tune within. And when we hear things like the phone ring, it's like some sort of like, trigger stems from
it's
within.
Like a dopamine hit.
There you go. There you go. That's the word for it. And it's a shame that we've come to, this point in our lives where we are more connected to our devices than to other people.
Yeah. Sure.
And I think it stems from wanting attention, right? And I think, increasingly as we evolve as people, we tend to focus on what we want or what we want to accomplish, and we don't give attention to other people as much as we have to. So people relate to the internet or the devices for this attention. So I think people are quote unquote to blame,
Yeah, it's like a dilemma. It's like you want to stay connected, but we're like you said, like we're like less connected because it's like having a crutch. It's like we rely so much on attention from like random people that we don't even know. We're not even that close to like our stuff, and then that gives us like self-worth. It's like, oh, I got 30 likes on this.
Yeah, who cares?
It's like, oh, that determines my worth.
Right. It's funny. I know you like Gary Vaynerchuk. He had this conversation with this young, I believe he's like an 11-year-old boy. And the guy was like, you know what? I've been working on this YouTube channel forever. I'm not getting any likes. I'm not getting any views. I've tried everything that I'm supposed to do. And Gary told the boy that, why does that matter? Why aren't you doing this for yourself? And the boy just broke down crying, right?
Wow.
And it goes to show that we live in a society where we are doing things just for appraisal, for attention. I think we're doing this for ourselves. And once we get the mindset that we're doing this for ourselves, I think life will be better twofold, threefold.
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of, I don't think everyone is there yet. I think it takes a certain level of self-discovery to realize that. I think most of us go through life and we're not even sure, like we don't even know what the vision is. I think we have a faint idea. It's like, oh, I want to be successful, but what does that look like? Right. So I think the first step is defining, like, okay, what do you want? Like in very clear, specific details. Because I think the more vague it is, the more likely you're just gonna get pulled and into like what everyone else wants you to do.
Yeah, Winston Churchill has a great quote. It's like, if you stop to throw a stone at every dog that barks, you never reach a destination, which is so true, right? It's like focus, right? In Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki talks about how the people who are successful, they're not balanced, but they're focused, right? Like having that laser focus to accomplish a goal, equals success, whatever success means.
It's interesting. I think yesterday I remember seeing like an article, and they were talking about like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Bezos all score like low on concern for others. But it was interesting because what they were analyzing is, oh, they're so self-focused. Like I'm doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for others. Like what they want me to do. And obviously these guys are, brilliant, and they've created multi-billion-dollar foundations for charity, so they do care about others, but their care for themselves comes first. Like, okay, my priority, my goals come first before like your goals and what you want me to do for you. So I thought that was so interesting.
I think that is true. Like, if you're not good, how can you help other people, right? Like, you have to be good within and without, right? I get that logic. Thanks, Shana. And please send me that article. I love to.
Yeah, it was so fascinating. I was like, shit, like that's crazy.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about I guess like Ghana. Obviously that's a huge part of your identity. Your culture. Like, what's something that the Ghanaian culture has that you think the American culture can kind of learn from?
Never been asked that question. I love it. So, let's take a step back and even look at the African continent, right? Currently, the African continent has the youngest population in the world.
Wow.
Right? I believe between the ages 15 and 24, there are 600 million African youth, and there are 1.2 billion people on the continent.
What? That's crazy. That's like triple the U.S.
Right. The number is ridiculous, right? And so because of this, it tends to foster this sense of resourcefulness, because people would leave college and not get jobs, and they are forced to launch an initiative to be able to bring in money. And from what you learn from the Bezos and the Elons, you name it,
Yeah.
they usually focus on growth before they look for profit.
Yeah.
But back home it's backwards, where they are launching businesses just for profit so they can survive.
Yeah.
Right, necessity. Right, it's like it's like their main focus. I think the code is necessity is a matter of nature or something like that. So I would say like they have this strong source of resourcefulness that I don't see a lot here. It's a shame,
Yeah. Like the scrappiness, I think.
Yeah. It's like we're getting it done by any means possible. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but then the thing is that because of that mindset, when they're employed, they tend not to also give in their all sometimes, right? So that's the reason why I launched a talent accelerator in Ghana called Blossom Academy, and we step in, and the main goal is to equip them with the technical skills, soft skills, but also share with them that once you can dedicate this amount of time to this company, we can also effectively back you with the capital needed to launch your own initiative, right? Because the truth is that most businesses fail, all around the world. But in Ghana, it's like 10 times the amount of failure, right?
Oh,
just
really?
because of the fact that they've not been educated enough to be able to launch an effective business. Whereas here, you have Silicon Valley, and you can talk to anybody on the street, and they'll know that, okay, you can change this with your business, and you can increase your revenue, right? But then that kind of like mentorship is not as prevalent or not accessible for the youth. So I'll say resourcefulness, resilience, tenacity, something that I see in the youth on the African continent. Yeah.
Dude, it sounds like there's like the network is like there needs to be more technology to integrate like the different networks in different regions, right?
Yeah. So another issue I'm extremely passionate about. Maybe I shouldn't label it an issue, but it's a problem. Which is like the
infrastructure.
Right, infrastructure, data connectivity, right? When I go to Ghana,
just for knowledge sharing.
Exactly. Like I spend so much dollars on buying bandwidth, right, to be able to connect. And I'm just like, why? Because the thing is that if someone was to access Facebook from Ghana, it's actually the network has to transfer all the way to, I believe, Poland, if I'm not mistaken, or England, back to the African continent. So what we need on the ground
is it because it's so far apart, like it's spread apart?
So far apart, right? So like every mediator is an extra money that's put on top of that. So
and it costs a lot to build that.
Exactly. Like, it's costly, but then we need more to go on the continent and say, let's build service on the ground and actually foster faster connectivity, because people are going to be more inclined to take online courses, more inclined to seek more knowledge out there. And it's happening, but it's not happening on a massive scale. I think something that needs to be solved. Yeah.
Is there like a huge income inequality, like similar to like I guess New York City or?
Yeah, it's interesting because I just hopped off the phone with a gentleman who lives in Mississippi and telling me how actually has maybe the highest poverty rate in America, which was like shocking.
Where?
Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I know very little about the place, but I was blown away when you said the numbers with me. But I would say like everywhere, there's the rich, there's the middle class, there's the poor. It's there. But let's not even focus on Ghana, right? Let's focus on the African continent.
Okay.
There are 66 million African youth that are living on less than $2 a day. Think about it.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like
you can't buy a hamburger.
Yeah.
Right? 66 million living on less than $2 a day, and the number is increasing because of the fact that there are no jobs. So if I don't know if you follow the Libya slave trade, right? The reason why it happened was because most of these youth were looking to leave their countries and go abroad for jobs. So they're going to Italy, going to Europe, the European place, and it bothers me because it's like the jobs exist but they don't have the skills, and the reason being that the countries are not equipping them with the skill set. So when they were trying to flee from their countries, they end up getting trapped in Libya, and we had the Northern Africans selling West Africans, East Africans, you name it, right?
Yeah.
And would you believe that every week 500 Africans get drowned in the Mediterranean Sea trying to come abroad?
Wow.
Think about it. 500.
And it's crazy how like you know, we get like one death and then everyone's crying, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
and these things are not covered in the news.
yeah,
This is when
it's whatever the money is.
Right,
like, you know,
right.
we control so much of the media.
Absolutely.
So like they're like, oh, you know, we'd rather do this because this will sell newspapers, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like I guess, you know, it's horrible to say, but maybe the life of like you know, 500 lives is not the same as like 10 lives in America.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense because these are people, and I wholeheartedly believe that, you know, Africa is not participating in the fourth industrial revolution, but I wholeheartedly believe that it would either be a leader or a critical player in the fifth industrial revolution. Because you have things like, you know, ICT, right? Information communication technology, that is like playing a critical role in the education sector, the health sector, you name it.
Yeah, there's a lot of new like a lot of African tech companies I know.
Right. It's exciting. I think we're living in very exciting times, and I think I always recommend people to go back. You know, if you're African, go back. If you're not African, go there and invest, because there are people out there who are willing to sweat and make sure that, you know, things benefit the economy so they can be benefited too.
Yeah. Do you think the lack of resources is just because it's so unknown, it's like new, like it's uncharted territory?
Leadership. That's a problem.
Okay.
The governments, most governments on the continent, and I don't want to
categorize. So like regulations could be, or lack of regulation.
Right. So an issue that I think is prevalent in almost every government, maybe except Rwanda, because they have a dictatorship right now. But even with Rwanda has its own stories. But like almost every other government has some sort of corruption happening, right? And I'm not saying maybe the president. I'm saying like someone in there who's funneling money into their pocket. Place where has, you know, a lot of corruption. Two of the biggest economies on the ground, Nigeria, South Africa, right? The South African, you know, president, you know, is literally breaking rules to help this family called the Gupta family be able to make so much revenue on the ground. It's mind blowing because the reason why you're president is to help the people. Right. Zimbabwe, very similar.
So what do you think? Like, what do you think are some things that we can do, I guess, as Americans to, you know, I guess shed light into some of this?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because you know, the thing is that when it comes to America's intervention on the African continent or anywhere else, I mean, there's been times where it's been great, and there's times where it's just like you might as well not have intervened at all.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that when America or like maybe a first world economy injects dollars or injects euros or whatever into the economy, it's positioned as aid, and this fosters corruption. Right. So what we need is investment, right? So we need the people who are actually looking to invest in companies to say, let's look on the African continent, let's figure out who are the people building big business, and let's back them with the capital needed for them to scale and bring more returns to the investor and to the people on the ground, right?
So that's going to businesses right now?
So, I mean, you know, there's this company, I've been following it for a while now, it's called M Pharma. It's based in Ghana, and I believe they connect people to, they let people know that there's medicine available in pharmacies before they go over there. I believe that's the mission. And you know, they just got backed by John Bayer, I believe. He's one of the early investors of Facebook. A company called, you know, Andela, right? In Nigeria. We speak about that. They got backed by the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, right? So with this kind of Florida I'm working on in Ghana, I believe that we can definitely get capital from abroad to empower more people. It takes time. I mean, to show that there's demand, right? Once you can show there's demand, there's opportunity there, I think that will make the difference.
So it sounds like it is changing. There's companies like Andela that are starting to create like some pretty big changes, starting to lead the way.
Yes.
So okay, that's interesting. So do you foresee, like, since there's companies like that, like in the future it'll be easier just because there's like a roadmap or there's companies that have done it before?
Yeah. So the African continent is getting more connected by the day, despite the data issues. Platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, is helping someone in Senegal connect with someone in South Africa. Or someone, you know, in Mauritius, you know, connect with someone in Ghana, right? It's getting a little more connected, and I think once the governments, right, step in and say, let's foster regional trade or regional conversations or regional interactions, I
Mhm.
think that's when we'll reach that point where things will be better. At this
Okay.
point, it's like when you have to travel to, if I have to travel from, Ghana to, I don't know, Egypt,
Mhm.
it's put in Africa, right? But I need to get a visa, right?
Yeah.
A friend of mine told me how, like, I forget what country he had to visit. He was living in Ghana. He had to go to Dubai and come back,
Um.
to the country, which is like
Yeah.
mind blowing because there's no direct flight over there. I forget what country she was referring to, and it's saddening because we are living in a globalized world, and I
Mhm.
think as we get more connected to the internet, I think the internet can really be a game changer for that kind. I think it will encourage more people to also build big business.
So when you speak about the fifth revolution, industrial revolution,
Yeah,
like how soon do you think that'll be? Like.
yeah. So full disclosure, I'm by no means an expert about of the industrial revolution. I don't know when it would happen.
Yeah.
All I know is that the first industrial revolution happened. Africa
Mhm.
missed it. Second happened, missed it. Third happened, missed it. Fourth
Mhm.
happened. So it's happening. Africa is actually participating in the fourth, right?
Uh,
And with the fourth comes things like 3D printing, right?
mhm.
Comes things like ICT, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
robotics, right?
Yeah.
So now the fear for most people is that with this fourth industrial revolution,
Mhm.
the more robots will be manufactured, and this may take jobs from blue collar workers.
Okay.
Which is why I think it's so important for organizations like ours at Blossom Academy to train people with the with high level skills needed for white collar roles.
Right. Right.
Right. So I think once more people come on African continent to equip youth with skills,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying let's go create jobs. I think the jobs do exist. I
Mhm.
think at that point we will be at the forefront of the fifth industrial revolution,
Hmm.
right? But I feel like if we don't focus on equipping with skill sets, high level skill sets, but just saying let's try to create jobs, I think
Yeah.
that would not be most sustainable. I think the people who create jobs are the ones with the skills, the ones with
Mhm.
the skills who happen to be entrepreneurial and
Right.
have the capital to launch a business to employ more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see, like, I know this is what like a lot of companies or a lot of countries, but I feel like a lot of like the really good talent or like the technical or IT or doctors, they end up moving to the States. Like, this happens with.
Brain drain.
Yeah, yeah. So like, do you think it's sort of like their duty, like people that do leave their home countries to kind of give back and eventually like come back and try to support their country?
So this is something that I am quite interested in because I'm one of the Africans who are in the diaspora. I'm not on the ground at the moment,
Mhm.
although I do plan on moving back, right?
Yeah.
And like I think when people ridicule Africans who are looking to push their conversation forward, it's unfair
Uh-huh.
because there's a place for every single kind of narrative. So the African that is living abroad
Mhm.
is just as much important as the African that's on the continent
Right.
because take this for example, right? There are times where I would send remittance, right? Send money to people, in Ghana,
Mhm.
to further the education, right?
Yeah.
If it was not abroad, if I was not working, how would I have been able to do that,
Right.
right? And the people who are on the ground who are also, helping push development. So I think there's a place for everyone.
Hmm.
However, I do think that it's a moral responsibility
Mm.
for every African that's trained and given the skills on the ground
Uh-huh.
to serve at some point. You don't have to serve your whole life there, but I think it's a moral
Hmm.
responsibility because we're at a point where a lot of people don't have the skills. So they have to, and who am I to say they have to, but I think it's so
Right.
imperative for them to say, let me at least help one person get to where
Yeah.
I'm at before I leave. I think
Okay.
once we do that, that would really help push the concept forward.
Yeah. Okay. What about people that are like more second generation? Like, let's say their parents, um, like came here from Africa, and maybe they were born like a couple years later. Like, do
Yeah,
you think that they have a moral duty to, like, I guess, contribute or
yeah,
to?
yeah. I mean, I even have family members who um, they're born here, and although they are Ghanaian, I feel like they wouldn't necessarily say they're Ghanaian before they're American, right? So they are infused into the American identity, and that is totally fine.
Okay.
I think it's okay. I think considering how much the continent is blossoming, in 2050 there's going to be 2.5 billion people. Wow. So I think it's important for people to even stay here. Like if you're a second generation, and see how you can, influence people back home to do more. Because one thing that is going to be in demand is infrastructure, and someone who comes from abroad is bringing in capital to afford a big house, which means that it dissuades people on the ground to look for alternatives to low-cost housing, right? So I think it's important to them there to write articles, spread awareness, visit, and spend, in tourism, right? Like travel to places like Kakum National Park in Ghana, right? I think that would help get a GDP to a level where Africa can be highly competitive with all the other continents.
Okay, and I guess the opposite of that question, the first question. So, what do you think that not only Ghanaians but like Africans can learn from like their American culture or mindset? Do you think it's like? Do you think Americans are just more entrepreneurial, or is it? I don't know, because I feel like a lot of other countries, I can only speak from I guess maybe Vietnamese culture, but I feel like a lot of them have a scarcity mindset.
Right.
Whereas in America, there's so much abundance. Well, most of the time, most people.
Yeah.
And it's just they don't the concept of scarcity is not real to them. It's kind of imaginary. Whereas I feel like Vietnam or certain parts of Vietnam, there's certainly a scarcity mindset.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's interesting because when you look at the United States, there's this word called opportunity that exists.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, what I added in my NYU story was that when I got in, there was a program at NYU called the Education Opportunity Program, right? And my mother was not making enough at that point, so okay, you qualify for this program. My father passed away when I was young, so it helped me qualify for that, and she had a lot of mouths to feed and stuff like that. So this is a boy who's living somewhere in Queens, who has all the ambition to go to the Ivy League schools, but does not get in. But then a school like NYU will step in and say, "I want to give you opportunity." That, I believe, does not happen a lot on the African continent. It's happening. There's a school called Access University that's helping students, equip them with technical skills needed to get jobs. They have internships in places like the UK. So there are people who are looking to do that, but it's just not enough, So I think what Africans can emulate from Americans, and I hate to generalize, I'll speak for the entrepreneurial ecosystem, is thinking long term. But then who am I to say that think long term when you have a mouth to feed?
Right. Yeah. It's just different priorities.
Exactly. Right. The agricultural labor force is 60% at the moment, right, in most countries, right? I think Ethiopia 60%, Ghana 45%, I believe, right? So it's high, and someone who is a farmer is not really thinking long term. They think about how they're going to flip, whatever produce they made, so they can make enough money to put their child through school. You get the logic.
But do you think the happiness is about the same though? Because I would argue.
I think people are happier in Africa.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, right?
100%.
Yeah,
100%. People get worried too much.
I think the same. In Vietnam, people are happier, even though they make maybe 1/10 of a New York City.
Right.
But that's what I've noticed, because every time my mom and my they're just always everyone's so happy and so relaxed, and they're farmers. Right. So it's interesting, that concept.
No, I mean it comes back to the idea of a hedonic treadmill, right? Where it's if you're making 75K. If you make any amount more than that, your level of happiness still stays the same, right? It's what the research says, right? Which means that these people, have been making a certain amount of money majority of their life. So even if they make more, it's they're not essentially happier. They just have more capital to put another kid through school, right?
Or they'll just buy more expensive clothes or buy a nicer car.
Yeah, like consumer culture. I think the consumer goods industry is approaching $1 trillion right now. So
yeah, I mean, we're contributing to it essentially. Our software is helping.
Yeah.
Rich people get richer.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting concept then. So I mean, I know we always talk about like philosophical and spirituality and stuff like that. So like, what do you think happiness is then? If it's obviously it's not always money related.
Yeah.
Like, well, what do you think it is? And what do you think would make New Yorkers happier? Because I think statistically, New York is like one of the most depressing places in the world. Right? And I think like that's what they say. Like.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I wrote an article on Thrive Global, and it was 10 rituals that would help busier people live happier. I believe that was the title. I'm blanking on it. And the book was very much inspired by this book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And in this book, he lists 10 rituals, right? I believe in the middle part of the book. And there's a ritual of music, a ritual of kind of like rising early, just like ritual of like eating healthier. And I think, personally, I believe the three most important things, the air, the sun, and water, right? So I believe that people would be happier, and I think it gets deeper when we actually look at, things like our climate change, like how can we, contribute to that conversation, or how can we, stop, manufacturing that messes up the weather, because when it comes to the fact that people will pass away, and when death happens, people are saddened and people are upset, right? The sun, right? And the fact is always sunny, right? So you're happier. You're seeing the sun, right?
Yeah, and I think it's proven because it gives you like vitamin D, and you're healthier when you get that.
When you're living in this like kind of like dark weather, like it's like you if you're not like it's hard for you to be happy, I hop on the subway in the morning and I'm like, wow, why is everybody frowning? And I come to work and I have all this negative energy,
not from me though, right?
No, not from you, right?
From the subway,
right. It's like I'm like, people are hitting you, people getting upset, when like you take a seat that you're about to take, it's interesting, and water, right? And I think as silly or as simple as it sounds, but I think water is so critical, so powerful.
Yeah.
Drink more water. You exercise more. You perspire. You drink more water again. Do it over again. Like it's exactly.
Are we made up of like 89% water or something?
Yeah, the number is ridiculously high.
Yeah.
70 or something like that. It's high, right? So it's like it's interesting, and I think when we tend to like focus on these three things. And like figure out like how do these three things apply to our lives? Because everybody will think about water differently. Everybody will think about sun differently or air differently. I think that makes a difference. Because if you think about it, the food we even eat, photosynthesis, water plays a role, air plays a role, sun plays a role. Yeah.
Sure. That's pretty deep.
Thanks, man.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm curious to learn more. Like, I know we talk about a lot of books.
Yeah.
You probably read like 50,000 books by now.
Oh my God, my head hurts from just getting lost in books.
I guess if you were to like summarize like like your top books, like what's like some of the main messages that you learned from like maybe like your top 5 books?
So one word, believe. Like it's
like mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like whether it's a fictional book, a non-fictional book, a memoir, a biography, autobiography, one word, believe. Like every single person, whether it's a protagonist or it's an entrepreneur, they believe in themselves, they believe in the idea, they believe in their cause and made that happen. Like it's one thing I never fail to see in every book that I've read. Like that mindset. And I think our mindset and our heart is two of the most important, maybe the most important things that we possess as human beings. Yeah. And these two come together. It helps us believe, and we have to believe in ourselves, right? And I meet people all the time. I had a wonderful conversation with an entrepreneur. I'm not going to mention her name, but She reached out to me and she said, hey, like, I like what you're doing. I'm trying to recruit a team. I'm looking for someone who could do sales for me. Like, can you help me? I'm like, I'm really busy, but I want to hop on a call with you. I just want to hear what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I believe in the idea of like good karma, right? Paying it forward. And we had on a call and we had a fantastic conversation. And she's like got like deals from like we work to like carry her products, you name it. And I'm like, but the thing is that when she's talking to me, I stopped. I'm like, the problem here is you don't need a team. The problem here is fear. And
Yeah.
she was like, oh my God, you're the first person to say that.
Yeah.
Because I've spoken to so many people, no one tells me that I'm fearful. Everybody says, oh, you're so good, keep doing it, applauding me.
Yeah.
The problem that most of us have
The truth hurts, man.
is fear.
Yeah. All of us.
Yeah. And it's like you have a deal with WeWork, but you're hesitant to sign more deals because you are fearful.
Yeah.
Right? And I think once we believe in ourselves, that fear ceases to exist.
Well, I don't think it ever goes away, but at least you have more awareness.
You listen through it.
And you still act even though you know there's fear.
Absolutely.
Like, so it's like, I think fear is always going to be there.
I agree.
But you still execute despite the fear.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think, it's like incremental steps. So like once you do something, you accomplish it, even a small goal, you get the confidence. You're like, I can do more. You get to the point where even when fear happens, you're able to break through. There's a book that I highly recommend called A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And there's one thing I picked from that book I read about 7 years ago. She says, the opposite of fear, or the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. So it means that if you're working on something and you're fearful, you don't love it enough. Right. You better evaluate. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny. The Lewis Howes podcast I listened to today literally said that.
Really?
Like, because she's this she just hustled, this musician who's like hustled.
Yeah.
And then she just basically like what she learned was just like, like everyone has either fear and love, and then that's it. Like that's like you can summarize the whole world into that. Yeah. Like anytime you don't get along with someone, it's maybe because of fear. Like maybe you're afraid of like, that I don't know. It's always like. So it's always one of the two, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, it's
I'll even piggyback on that because I believe that when we leave this earth, I believe there's a heaven. I'm pretty spiritual, and I believe that when we get to heaven, God is only going to ask one question: did you love enough? Right? If you say no, that means you're fearful, which means that you have not accomplished what your fullest potential in life was. Right? People say don't sin, and I get it. Like I respect it. But I think the main indicator, right, is did you really fulfill your purpose in life? And if you knew what your purpose was, if you did not fulfill it, I think that's the greatest sin that you can ever cause. Right? I think it's a sin to yourself, sin to your family, sin to your future generations. You of course could honestly just be having a conversation with a stranger, but you chose not to because you're not in a good mood. But you knew you had to kind of have this conversation with a person. And people think, oh, when I build like an empire, that's when I feel my potential. You know what I'm saying? So I think once people have that mindset that I'm going to start, I'm just going to get it done. I think that makes a difference. And like I said, the word that keeps showing up in every book I read. If you read a book, just look for the word believe. I guarantee you'll find it somewhere. Believe. Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. I think first you have to love yourself before you can love others. Right. So I think the first step is like accepting like yourself. Right. Because no one's perfect, right? So first accepting like, okay, you do have flaws. Right. But despite your flaws, I'm still gonna do something about it instead of just dwell on my flaws. Like, oh, but I don't have resources, so I'm just gonna like bail out. Because everyone can always have some sort of excuse, right? Right. Like, oh, my parents never taught me, or like, oh, I didn't. Resourcefulness. That's what's missing, most people, right? The secret to success is not having all the resources. I think the most successful people were resourceful, right? They didn't have the resources, but because of that, challenged them to work hard and get it. What are your thoughts on this? One of the podcasts I listened to, he was actually an NYU professor. Okay. He studied pretty much all. I think he started. He was one of the executives at Dropbox and at Google. Cool. And basically he said that
likability is like probably like one of the most important qualities that you can have. Like he was
Right.
talking about like Sheryl Sandberg
Right.
and like Larry, Larry Page and Sergey, like Brent, like all these people. He said the one thing they all have in common is that they're so likable that like you just like there's nothing you can do that like you're just so attracted to them.
Yeah.
And that's he said that, like even Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
He says they're just so likable that when you meet them, like you just fall in love.
Yeah, no, and I think it's true, but then when you really like dig in a little bit further and read about these entrepreneurs, you realize that they have some really negative flaws traits.
Yeah.
Or negative is the wrong word, flawed, because we all have flaws, right? Like Jeff Bezos, for example, like it's like extremely, like he's like very like vicious, like he has to make sure like things pan out, and like right, and it's like it puts a strain on some employees that work for him.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I respect the man. However, like personally, I believe that everyone deserves to have equal footing. Everyone deserves to have happiness, and I think putting a strain on employees is not great. And I'm sure, like, Sheryl Sandberg has a flaws too. So I think like ability plays a role, but I also do think that be chameleon. And although it may sound flawed, but I think that's what most of these successful people do. It's like when they're out there in front of their employees or in front of their employers or whatever, they're this person. But then that means that they're also another person behind closed doors. And it's okay to be another person behind closed doors, because you want to release the anger, you want to release the pain. You want to release the curse words, right? So be chameleon, right? In that approach, it's like, okay, I'm not encouraging you to have two sides, but I'm just saying that it's okay to have that like ability aspect. It's okay to go out, go back home, and just vent and just be upset.
I think I used to think like venting was like bad. I'm like, oh, like that's not good. But in actuality, it's good to let out your frustration, or else like you'll literally go crazy. So if you don't have an outlet, then you might be taking out on the wrong people. So it's good to just have like someone that, like a friend or a wife or husband, that you can just be like, oh, this happened to me. Because then you just let it all go, and then you're like, oh, you feel so much better. No, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree.
Man,
no, this was a really good conversation.
I learned a lot, man. Thanks for this opportunity.
I guess a couple other questions. One of the questions in the Travel Mentors, Tim Ferriss always asked them, like, what's one failure that you had that was, like, I guess, a blessing in disguise? So I'll give you some time to think about it.
Something that I had. So I'll say that when I launched my nonprofit in college, it was called Anansi Global. I had no insight about how to really launch an organization. I was new to entrepreneurship. I'd already started like some projects when I was younger, like designing clothing or selling things or tutoring people. But what I'll say though is when I launched Nancy, it humbled me a lot because I realized that I don't know much. And taking my ego from the picture is instrumental to building a successful business. So I would say when I was raising funding, it was extremely difficult to be able to raise capital needed to scale our operations. We successfully worked with kids in Dominican Republic, India, Bangladesh, and Ghana. Phenomenal stuff, but we couldn't really continuously scale our efforts. And I think that helped me go back to the drawing board and say, how can I seek the right people to empower me, or to uplift me, or to give me the skills that I need to even do more?
To complement like your skills,
right? Took online courses, extremely helpful. However, I would say that when I got to Ghana, it's when the real transformation happened. I was in Ghana to teach orphans and neglected youth the life skills through entrepreneurship to help them succeed. However, when I was there, I realized that there was even a bigger problem, which is the unemployment rate I told you about. So I wouldn't say it was a failure. I would say it was a pivot. Right. I don't think there's no such as a problem. I think there's always opportunity. I think I don't think that's as a failure. I think it's as a pivot
Right.
because at least in my world, because when something doesn't go well, which is very rare because I always look at things from a positive approach.
Right.
I think how can this pivot so that I can actually do something, else, something that has a similar goal, a similar mission, but a different nature. So
Yeah.
I'll say I pivot more than I.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, like, I guess during it, you might be like, oh man, this kind of sucks. But
Yeah.
I think like it's easy like 10 years later to be like, wow, like
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for that opportunity
Yeah.
because it helped me become who I am today, right?
Yeah.
But I think during it, you're just like, man, this is tough. Like I want to cry right now, or like I just don't feel great right now.
No, I agree. You just gotta roll with the punches, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then I think another question he asked that I think I asked it before, but for the audience, what's your favorite?
I forgot we were recording, by the way.
What are your favorite books that you like to gift others?
So this is a very common one. And the last person that I recently got into a relationship, the last person I got this book for was my girlfriend. It's called The Alchemist.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have read it, but I think it's so important to keep reading that book because there's always a hidden gem, right? There's this guy that works close with me on Blossom Academy. He read the book and I was like, what did you get from that? He's like, you know what? It taught me. I felt like I was like Santiago. It taught me that there's this sheep that I can take care of, but then I also need to go on this personal legend to come back and take care of my sheep. I think it's beautiful. Where on my scenario, I thought merchant, right? Like there's this merchant who's supposed to take a trip to Mecca, but not doing that because of fear, right? It may not say it explicitly, but fear plays a role there. Oh, I need to make this amount of money before I go to Mecca, and he gets older and doesn't make the trip, which made me realize that it's so important to make that leap if you feel it. If it's within it, you say you have to make that leap, make it.
Yeah, like trust your gut.
Who cares if you quote unquote fail, man? There's just one life. And if you succeed, think about it, So it's a book that I really encourage people to read and also gift. Another book that I've gifted quite often is A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. I think it's a book that everyone should read because I think, in the book she also talks about how as human beings, the purpose of us living on earth is to evolve towards perfection. And I think as the older we get, the more we flee away from perfection because of the amount of distractions we have in society, right? And I think when you return to love, you're able to tap into your perfectionist side and you're able to relay that to other people and empower people to be close or approach perfection.
Yeah, I also hear, so here's a good question. So what do you, how do you, because sometimes, we think about our ego, right? Because ego is obviously a big part of us, depending on circumstances and where we're at in life.
Yeah.
So how would you say, what's some advice you would give to people that, maybe they're too ego-focused and they need to ground themselves a little bit more?
Yeah, so, it takes me back to the book Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
And I think, I think ego is necessary, okay? It's important to have an ego, but also important to observe when your ego becomes too heavy to carry, right? So when I think there are points where people have missed opportunities because they feel like, oh, I'm too good for it, or oh, this or this and that, or oh, because I'm waiting for this other thing, and I think ego plays a role there.
That, yeah.
I've done that, and I think in order to flee away from ego, it's important to really look within and question what is it that you really prioritize, right? Or what is it that really matters to you?
Right.
Once you're able to figure that out and you continuously pursue it, I think that would also help you realize that ego is not needed, but you're going after a greater cause, right? Because people who have ego tend to think they are the center of the world, right? So there's this Twitter quote by Adam Grant that was so interesting, right? He talks about the the advice that a lot of people get is that quit your job or leave home and go find, go explore a journey, go figure out what it is that you're supposed to do in life.
Yeah.
But what you're supposed to be telling people is that actually find who you care about or what you care about and dedicate your life towards that service. And I think that is when you can do away with ego.
Yeah.
Right? Where like you actually
like
care
a
about
mission.
something.
Yeah. Like
A
something
mission.
bigger than just yourself.
A life philosophy, right?
Yeah.
So my life philosophy is to create meaningful experiences that help people thrive, right? So when I'm doing something and I'm like, wow, is this a meaningful experience? Is it helping people thrive? My ego steps to the side and puts me in control, right? Because I think just like fear, I think ego will always be there.
Yeah.
But you have to figure out how do you mitigate or how do you suppress that ego and keep moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, that's great advice. I definitely think if you have something, like if you have like a higher calling, some people it's take care of their family, right? Their kids, or some people it's like, I just want to get married so I can have built this amazing life together. Right? So everyone has like their own, I guess, like higher calling.
Yeah.
So, I know we spoke about the hero's journey as well, right?
Yeah. I'm reading the book right now, actually, Jeph Acheampong.
Yeah.
It's quite a fascinating book, very philosophical.
Yeah.
It's funny because a story that I read, I believe this morning on my train ride to work, was a woman that she was hungry, so she swallowed her two sons. And she saw the two sons, but she could not move afterwards. So she was laying on the floor, and her husband came from work, and her husband saw her lying on the floor. Her husband said, like, where are my kids, blah, blah. And he realized that the wife had swallowed the kids. So he used his magic wand and brought the kids back out. So he didn't say anything, but then he waited till they got to the farm. No, they got to the water bank the next day, and he uses like his magic wand to pretend like he's every single place. So like if a woman called his voice, a tree would respond. If the woman called his voice, a water would respond. Like different things would respond, and he used that to flee away. And I think the story I took from that is that when you're on your hero's journey, don't talk too much, right? Because it's like if he told his wife, that what, I'm so upset that you swallowed my kid. The wife realized that she's probably going to seek revenge, right? But he became that hero by taking away the kids from his mom's stomach. Yeah. And fleeing away with the kids, so the wife does not, the wife does not, swallow the kids again. I think while you're on that hero's journey, it's so important to focus. Yeah. Stop just telling everybody that I'm doing this or doing that, because the truth is that although no one may be able to execute your idea as good as you can, I think what people would say may deter you from pursuing your initiative. Yeah. It's not good enough. Oh, can't you wait? Oh, this and this and that. Yeah. Right. And I think the founder of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, talks about this a lot. Right. When she had Spanx, she even told her husband that she was working on Spanx for 2 years. Yeah. But she was scared, or maybe scared is the wrong word, but she didn't want to be deterred, from pursuing this idea. And now Spanx is $1 billion company. Yeah. Think about it. Yeah, that's a great story. Yeah, I think definitely, like, I feel like a lot of our conversations is focused on, like, I think you have to figure out, like, I think the first step for a lot of people, if they don't know what their calling is to figure out, like, write down, like, what do you value, like, what do you care about, like, like, what will give you fulfillment. Yeah. Because I think too often, like, we just automatically just, like, we do what society tells us, or what our parents tell us to do, like, become a doctor, become a dentist, become a lawyer, right? Yeah. And then, I know a lot of people have reached out to me lately and just like, hey, like, I don't think I'm happy doing like investment banking, you know, like, and just, I feel like a lot of people, they go through life and then like they reach a point where they're just like, like, is this what I want to do? Like work 80 hours a week and like to make rich people richer? Like, so I feel like that's something that a lot of us like go through. Right. And so, yeah. And then I also got I think it's always good the way you ground yourself is to like be of service to the world, right? Whether it's, helping out, like anyone else, like, your peers, your friends, or coworkers, like everyone else in life.
And I feel like that sometimes gives you like the energy
Yeah,
and gives you just fulfillment. Like,
I 100% agree. The
yeah,
more you help others, I think the more you feel empowered, fulfilled to do so.
yeah,
It's like there's this saying that's so beautiful. I don't know who said it, but it said, if you put your hand in the darkness to reach another hand, you realize that it's your own,
mm,
right? And it's so deep on many levels because
mm,
it could be someone that you come from the same country with, or when you put your
yeah,
hand out, you realize that you're actually helping yourself. And I
yeah,
think, we as human beings, we are mirrors.
mhm,
There's a reason why we are mirrors, and when we help each other, we're
yeah.
essentially helping ourselves.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the older I get, the more I realize like we're all exactly the same.
Man,
It's like probably like the one thing, like if I was to summarize like the one thing I learned like over the past like 30 years, like
yeah,
man, I'm over 30 now, or
yeah,
30 now,
yeah,
is that like literally everyone's the same. I
right,
think it's just society or the media or just
yeah,
people tell us that we're different, but
yeah,
we're all exactly the same.
yeah,
We all
yeah,
have fears, we all have love, we all
right,
have capabilities, we all have like a
right,
mind,
yeah.
but I mean everything else is the same. It's just I think sometimes the media tells us what we should think.
Yeah, no, it definitely manipulates our thinking. Like the oldest book, well, one of the oldest books, the Bible. I definitely know what the oldest book is. Um, I should know that. Make a note to look into that. But yeah, in the Bible, I believe in John 1:1, it says very simple quotation. It says, "I and my Father are one." What does that mean, right? And if you look at Genesis 1:27, it says, "We are created in God." My Father are one. It says in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, it's repeated there, or it's repeated in the New, but it's also said in the Old Testament that we put in God's image, which means that we are all really the same. So
Yeah.
like when I first started going to entrepreneurship, at a young age, when I was younger, my dad would pay me to read. My dad was alive, and I remember that we had this in our kitchen. We had this like bottom shelf where I wouldn't spend the money. I just put the money in there because
Uh-huh.
one of our drivers was like, "Oh, like you should learn how to save," and
Yeah.
I didn't take that as a grain of salt. And maybe there's no coincidence that I'm helping launch Isuzu right now. And I put the money there, and one of
Mm.
the on the African continent, we have this thing called like a house help. So someone
Uh-huh.
helps in the house. So we had about few or so, and they found out saving, and they would ask me, for money, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll give the money, but you have to pay me interest, right? And I think it was like what 6, 7. And I share that
Huh.
story to say that um, I just started to say that from a young age, I was reading the Bible, and when I thought that I was creating God's image, I
Mhm.
believe that I have at least 1/10 of God's power to create, which means that I
Mhm.
can create some sort of like investment approach. I can create some sort of like
Mhm.
savings platform to help these people,
Mhm.
who are, living with us,
Yeah.
be financially literate, which is something I'm so passionate about. So
Yeah.
I think, when you think about how we're created and you think about these quotations I just shared with you, it really
Yeah.
makes sense that we are
Mm.
all pretty much the same.
Yeah, I mean that I think that's a good place to wrap it up. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. This has been great.
I would say that alone is, I mean, that's powerful. I
Yeah,
think, that leads to what you said about love, right? Like if you come back to love, that's where there's creation, that's where there's possibilities, that's
yeah,
when there's opportunities
yeah,
for everything.
yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, like we all just want fulfillment and a sense of purpose, right?
yeah.
And what better way than, to give love and be able to support our,
Agree.
the people around us.
I totally agree. I 100% agree with you, man. But this has been phenomenal.
Yeah, it was fun,
I learned
man.
a lot, and thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, man. I think, I'm gonna be sad that, unfortunately,
Yeah.
Jeff is on to conquer the world and, become the next Bezos. So, we'll look out for him one day. One day, this interview is gonna be worth millions. So, you heard it right
Oh
here.
man, you flattered me, man.
The truth.
No, it's very flattering, and I'm extremely humbled. Um, You know, it's interesting because I think if I died tomorrow, one question that if I can ask myself would be, did I inspire enough people to create, right? And as I go on my journey in life, it's one thing that I keep in mind, right? And so it's like the whole idea of like, oh, like conquering the world or like making money, like it never really appeals to me because I'm like, how many people have I really empowered to create something? Because I believe that if someone can create something, chance of it creating a job for someone else is high, which means that I'm helping people attain financial inclusion, which is something I'm extremely passionate about. So I'm really thankful for your work.
Well, that's what I meant by confidence, right?
No, I know what you mean.
I don't mean like I didn't mean like Napoleon, like literally like
oh
Caesar,
my God.
but
I definitely not share any qualities with any of those. No, but yeah, no, it's been a good journey. It's a good journey, and can't wait to pursue my hero's journey. No coincidence I'm reading this book now, right?
Yeah. It's crazy how things work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I'm so glad we, obviously crossed paths, and I'm sure this won't be the last time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
we keep in touch.
Yeah.
Keep in touch, man. And you come to the African continent, I can host you, and you can bring in some investment dollars and invest in my brothers and sisters over there. But this has been phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for your time.
Cheers.